Good evening. Today we'll see a few things on the conditions of contract. Okay. So again, a very quick recap. A contract is between two parties. Somebody promises something, the other person accepts it, and in exchange for the work which is being promised, they get a concession. Concession is usually some kind of money, or it can also be a concession to collect toll, for example, or it can be for some other thing. Contract can be for doing a work or to abstain from doing a work also. So anything can be part of the contract. Contract can be verbal. Contract is enforceable by law, and whatever you do in the contract, it should be for legal purposes. Okay, so this is about a contract in general. This is how the Indian Contract Act works. So if I'm working with the Indian Contract Act, this is what I'm going to talk about. Something legal, something enforceable by law, people entering into the agreement in free will. That is, there's no pressure on one party to do uh, something against their will. So there is a contract document which is typically in place for engineering contracts. Unlike other contracts where we talk about in terms of verbal contract and other things, engineering contracts are very specific. We have a written document. Okay, the purpose is to tell the roles of the various parties very clearly. It means that somebody cannot just walk into the contractor's office and do whatever they want. They cannot say, okay, I want you to do this. I want you to do this before certain time. No, that is not acceptable. Okay, so they need to know the roles, what they can do, what they should not do. Okay, now in many of the big contracts, what will happen is they'll have a well established chain of command. There will be what is known as a communication protocol. I might be the design engineer, I might be the one doing the work, I might know the person on the other side. Maybe I am in the contractor side, the client side working engineer may be known to me, maybe due to personal reasons or due to working relationship. But I cannot get an information directly from the other person if we are not part of the communication protocol. So if you are in the site, somebody is saying change a particular color of the paint. You cannot change the color of the paint, even though it's a owner's representative. Unless that person is part of the communication chain, you cannot do it. So there is a role, there is a responsibility, and usually there will be an originator for every action. Only that person can uh, start the work, and you are obliged as part of the contract only to honor if it comes through that particular person. So there is a delay. The contractor raises it, but unless that person is in the communication protocol, the the owner is not obligated to honor the request raised. Again, we try to indemnify ourselves against damage. If something goes wrong, I am not responsible. Okay, so then if the person who's raising it is raising it and the other person accepts, then the person gets indemnified. Otherwise, the other person says, hey, why the heck should I get the contract, enter into the contract with you? You don't want to do anything, you don't want to take any risk, and in spite of that, you want me to pay you. Why should I pay you? So this means this is where the smartness of the individual comes into the equation. Okay. Again, other two important things is how will the work be measured? Will it be measured with the measuring tape, theodolite, or some other advanced distance measurement devices? That is again mentioned in the contract. Today, the way of measurement of many of the cadastral surveys is by the use of drones. It has come. It's not something in the future. Drones are being used in India also to take some measurements. So, but this measurement need not be binding unless it's part of the contract. So these are some of the things which we need to do. agree on, I mean, this is usually agreed upon. How will you make the payment? Is it NEFT? Is it by some other mode of payment? How many days are you allowed interest free credit before the bill is uh, paid? All of these things are mentioned, and this is the main objective of the contract document. If you go into the contract document, engineering document is typically invalid without a drawing, because drawing is the language of the engineers. So if there is an architecture drawing, the client is expecting that whatever is communicated by the drawing is being put out by the contractor. Today we are in an age where the owner is able to do a digital sign off on 3D models. So you can actually say, I want the pattern, such and such pattern to be done. If you see the Indira canteens in Karnataka, Indira Gandhi's what do you say, picture is there in the wall. This was 3D printed. This was 3D printed. So it means that what exactly is required by the client is being very explicitly said, and that is being delivered, and that is expected to be delivered. So there is specifications, then there are general conditions of contract. For example, CPWD and all these organizations have what are called as general conditions of contract. How, irrespective of the contract you're doing, the work has to look or be done. This is general conditions of contract. In particular, I mean, in specific, we'll be having a look at the CPWD's specification also a little while from now. Then there are special conditions of contract which will be specific for that particular job. Okay, so if suppose there's a school building, and that school building is going to be constructed in, say, Simla, that means there are some certain special requirements which are required to be done when it's done in Simla than when compared to it being done in Chennai. Or if you do it in Kerala or in a place where there is a lot of rain. So each place has a specific requirement. Okay. So if it's a power plant, NTPC has what are called as general conditions of contract, which will be holding good irrespective of the work which you do. They standardized all the contract clauses so that they don't run into all the mistakes which they have done in the previous projects. All the good things they learned from the previous projects, they have all been put in the general conditions of contract. How will I do the measurement? So irrespective of the place where the NTPC power plant is, an NTPC engineer knows how to measurements are going to be done, how the payments will be made, what will be the stages, what will be the checks, what will be the balances. All of these are put in one document, general condition of contract. Special conditions of contract will go on to detail some of the site specific requirement or geography specific requirement, or maybe it is the project specific requirement. So this is the special conditions of contract will always vary. Okay, then there is the agreement. What is the agreement? What I'll pay, what is the work I need, what is the payment I make, or what is the payment that you expect, or this is the work I'll do, there's the promise being done, and it is being submitted, and the agreement is the place where the there's an acceptance of the whole thing. What do we mean by the whole thing? The promise which has been done and the concession being accepted by the contractor. Sometimes there is a detailed bill of specification which accompanies all of these contract documents. Okay, so you need to open a contract document, look for each of these items. What are they? What is the in fact, I didn't mention one more thing. What is the project about? Usually we call it the cover page. So that will kind of give an executive summary. 2 into 300 megawatt power supply. School for, see, school for LKG students is not the same as school for high school or higher secondary. A school for special needs children will not be the same as the school what we typically see. So all this means we are going to have the summary of what is the nature of work in the beginning itself. And so the specification tell the technical part. General conditions of contract will usually be common between many projects. Special conditions of contract, it could be the liquidated damage which the owner is going to charge. What would be the delay clause, other things. I'll just come to that part a little later. And of course, many of these things could be in the special condition of contract, or it can be in the general conditions of contract. For now, I want you to recognize the fact that general conditions of contract will span across projects. Typically, it will be the same for a particular owner or a person who's letting out some work on contract. Okay. Any questions on this? Right. So, technical specification tell what is the requirement of the job. Technical specification give us very specifically what we need to get out of the job. See, for example, the wind loads for which the design is to be done, the seismic loads that has to be taken up by the structure. What is the type of tiling which they require? What is the type of finishes which we need to have for the walls? What is the type of lighting? What is the type of electrical wiring? What is the MEP services? Everything will typically be put in the technical specification. All of these will be put in the technical specification. Then again we'll have the drawings. There will also be drawings. These drawings will be very rough. They'll not have much details, but they'll have enough information to communicate to the end customer, end contractor. Now, one of the areas where we typically run into trouble is when the elevation is concerned. Okay, when the elevation is concerned, you are having the floor plans, but you don't know how the elevation is going to be, except probably where the windows are. Whether the person wants sunshade with the decoration, or some other like motif being done, like I told that Indira Gandhi's picture being put into the wall. Okay, that was the requirement. So unless the elevation is specified, we don't know what is the client's vision for the structure. So whether they want glazing or something else, we don't know. So when such information is not provided by the by the owner, the contractor should ask the owner for this information. Array, I am not having this information, can you please share it with me? So either the owner will say we will see it later. When he says he sees it later, that's very dangerous. He can ask for gold plating also later on, and they can say tender stipulation is that you will do whatever we tell you. So instead of that, what you can do, you can generate a drawing, you can generate an elevation and say my cost is based on such and such elevation. This is what I perceive is required for your project. Now the owner can either change the elevation at the pre-tender stage itself, or in the tendering stage itself, or accept what has been submitted. They can also accept what is submitted. Okay. And again, we need to understand that these specifications help us to really understand what is the job which is required to be done. See, here we are having steel windows. Suppose this is changed to wooden frame, or it's changed to aluminum frame. Each of these things have a different cost. Each of these things have a different, what you call as, maintenance schedules. Maybe preparation work for uh, fixing the windows is different. Each of these things has to be thought of at the beginning of the job. Okay. See, for example, there is a battery room in most of the projects. It may be for a UPS in an IT park. It may be for a UPS in a, for the control systems of factory. But in all of these cases, we need to take some special care for the battery room. The tiles which you use are not the typical tiles. Many times you'll have a false floor, and you'll also be painting the surface with acid resistant paint. Okay, so this means that the cost of doing all of these work is not the same as a general work. So if you don't estimate it properly at the beginning, that means you are in trouble. So if you see in most of the places, UPS rooms don't have that much of a difference, because one of the things which has happened is the previous generation of lead acid batteries required that you top up the acid and distilled water very frequently. Now all the batteries are sealed units, they are maintenance free. It means that you may not require to do all that work. So if a client is not specifying, it's safer to put it in words that what are we going to do. I mean, we are not considering what we call acid resistant tiles and wall paint, because these batteries are considered. So this will be part of your pre-bid query. So like this, when you start doing a work in a particular domain, okay, when you're doing work for housing, hospitality, and maybe like public buildings or industrial buildings, each of them have very different requirements. And only when you work in a particular kind of project for say 5 years or so, you will start to get the hang of the nuances of the project. Then only you can really gauge what is the requirement of the building. Okay. So these are some of the specification. We have spoken about this earlier, performance. So when a performance specification is given, a performance guarantee clause will be there which says this particular power plant should generate so much of power in its like I mean like it should not fall below a certain level. This coal handling system should carry a certain tons per hour. If you do that, then only I accept this as this one. Then there can be design specification, what the design should match. For example, some of the biggest challenges we Indians face is the project might be funded by Japan. Okay, maybe your bullet train project, maybe your metro train. So many other projects are being funded by Japan. I think JICA, JICA. So they want all the works to satisfy the Japanese regulation, but the work is being done in India to the Indian government, and they will want the project to satisfy the Indian standards. Sometimes there will not be an apple to apple comparison which is possible between the Japanese standards and the Indian standards, maybe the Eurocode and the Indian code, because the philosophy of design is different. The working stress and limit state, at one point they are incompatible. You cannot marry both of them, or you cannot say both of them are equivalent to each other, because the way you do the fundamental assumptions are different. So it means that you have to be very cautious when you are reading the specification also, whether the project is going to be able to work out. Okay, two metals, some of the metals cannot be welded together. Has our owner asked us to weld, for example, stainless steel to steel, both are steel, that's how you might look at it, but then the nuances, metallurgically they cannot be welded together. So it will be a very good time for you to ask a question then itself. Open specifications are okay, you need to satisfy certain things. You can use whatever standard you want. Eurocode, go ahead, use it. You want American code, do use it, but use a particular item which is following some standards. That's an open specification. Closed specification will be very very particular. You can use only particular code. It should satisfy only one particular Indian standard, or they can even be more specific. You should only use Kirloskar pumps, or you should use only Exide batteries. No questions, no what you call as no. There's no chance of fighting against it. Okay. See, for example, if you're going to work for Tata Steel, it doesn't make sense for you to buy cement from some other company. I mean, steel from some other company. Of course, steel will be a free issue in many of these projects, but in any case, I'm just putting it out as an example, right? So there can be closed specifications, and there are something called equivalent specifications. So if a product matches this particular requirement, for example, this projector is there. So when you are having the projector, you look at the resolution. You'll also see the ANSI lumens. Okay, the brightness of the lamp. Okay, so if you're going to use this for a very big auditorium, maybe this lamp is not bright enough. So they'll say if it satisfies a particular specification, you can use a equivalent. There is no problem in using the equivalent. So maybe it's a switch, anchor, you can use anchor or an equivalent brand. This gives the contractor the choice of negotiating with various parties and probably making a profit. Sometimes there will be a proprietary specification. Okay, so for example, if they say your product should and only use one particular technology, maybe see for example a particular refrigerant will be used only by one manufacturer of AC. It's a proprietary product. Whatever rate that particular AC company is quoting, you are supposed to pay for it and get it. Okay, so these are some of the type of specifications which you see in a contract. So inside the contract document itself, for different items, they can have different specification, differing specification. Okay, so what holds good for cement might not hold good for paint. Okay, see for example, NTPC is very particular about the sheeting color, the color of the walls which you paint, the color of the tiles. You cannot change it. If you change it, there is a deviation. Okay. Any questions on any of these kinds of specification? Any doubts, please? Right. So we'll look at the conditions of contract, especially as set out by CPWD. This is how all the contracts will be. Some changes might be there here and there. First and foremost, if there is a delay in the work, delay in the start of the work, the owner will compensate the contractor. But typically it is very difficult to get this compensation value, because if the contractor is very smart and is trying to get compensation for the owner's delays, owner will squeeze the contractor when the delays from the contractor. Okay, so they'll also give an incentive for early completion, and most of the contractors make their profit because of this incentive. Getting the job, they are cutting their profits a lot. Okay, and without doing extra work, if you do the, I mean, you do some extra work without doing more work, you still get a money from the incentive which they give, the bonus which they give for early completion. Then the general condition of contract will also specify the duration of contract. It's 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, so on and so forth. So how the payments are going to be done? Okay, is it going to be a one-time payment? Is it going to be a part payment? If you submit a bill, will I pay you the entire amount you have billed me for, or will I hold back some money? All of these things are going to be there. So escalation cost is, if suppose there is a escalation in the price. Okay, so today for example, crude oil is, I mean oil is selling at say around 80 rupees to the liter. Suddenly if the oil becomes 90 rupees per liter, the contractor will not be able to do the work, because he's depending on generator, he's depending on trucks, he's depending on almost everything is dependent on the fuel cost. So this 10 rupees cost in a liter of fuel will hit him to the level that he'll not be able to get up. So they will immediately, I mean, like when the criteria, when so the contractor, the owner will also say, when a particular item's cost escalates beyond a particular level, we will offer you some compensation. Okay. Of course, deviation from what work they are told, if there is a variation, maybe it may be because of the owner wanting an additional landscaping work, which is not part of the original deal. So the variation is there. So they will have to negotiate and then get it done. So how is the negotiation to be done? That is also going to be put up in the contract document. Okay. So there are penalties, and sometimes they'll say you should not sublet the work. You as the main contractor, you have to do it by yourself, by your own agents. You should not sublet the work. So there can be some restriction. Again, suppose a contractor loses all the money, he is not able to deliver the work. There is a condition called insolvency. So who's going to take care of the work when the contractor says I'm bankrupt, right? So if the owner feels work is not going to be done in time to the required quality, they can stop the work, terminate the contract, award the contract to another party. If they find that the contractor is not able to do the work because they are not having money, they can again say stop the work, I'm going to give it to another party. So what constitutes insolvency? What constitutes poor performance or no performance? All of these things are being talked about in the contract document itself. Okay. So if there is a dispute in the other paper, the contracting paper, you'll find that there is the arbitration mechanisms are clearly defined. Okay, so you will have this mentioned in the contract. If you see the bill, Amazon, all the cases will be subject to the court in, I think, Mumbai, right? You see in the bill, they'll have something at the bottom. If there is a dispute, all disputes will be in Mumbai. What is the dispute for VAT? Any dispute, it will be only in the court of Katpadi or Vellore. Okay, so this is something which is defined in the beginning itself. It means that if the work, for example, L&T is doing a work in Dubai and they L&T is the owner and you are a company in say some European country, L&T can always say all the matters of dispute shall be only in courts of India, Mumbai, India. That means, although you are a member of the European Union, you cannot say L&T you have to come to my place. The work is being somewhere in the Middle East. So in the beginning itself, you agree with the work. In case of disputes, you don't want disputes, but if there's a dispute, you are going to go to India, and that is the place where the dispute will be resolved, and the loss of India is going to be the choice of the basis of loss. Okay. Again, another very important thing contract documents will tell is who should be in the project. For example, when we were doing the Chennai Airport project, we didn't have a person who had experience in the airport business. Okay, so we needed a person because we need to give that person's name, we have to give them the experience, and sometimes we should also tell what salary you are going to pay that person. It's all going to be put in. It's going to be put how many engineers are going to be there on site, what should be their minimum qualification. Okay, now if you don't do that, there is also penalty. So for example, what should be the minimum salary for a MTech construction management student inside with 0 years experience? Because for that also they have this one provision. So suppose they say, okay, I want a construction supervisor with fresher. What do you want the salary to be? Come on, yeah, it's a dream number, no? 1.5. Fine. If you look at the what you call as the document, you'll find that they say that 8,000 rupees should be the money. If you don't keep a site engineer, the penalty for every month of not keeping that person will be 2,000 rupees. Now you tell me, is it cheaper to hire an engineer or is it costlier to hire an engineer? Simple math. If I don't hire an engineer, I spend 2,000 rupees. If I hire an engineer according to terms of contract, I spend 8,000 rupees. Okay. If I hire an engineer from VIT, I spend 15,000 rupees. Now you are the owner of the contracting company. You are the project manager. You are fixing the price. What will you do? See, guys, this is why I want you to be not a fresher when you go. I want you to have enough confidence when you go and stand in site that you're going to add value. Okay, so this qualification and number of engineers will also be part of the matrix, part of the contract document. Okay, and in CPWD, some of the materials are free issue. Like I told, if you work for TSL, any steel which you use will be free issue. If you go for a cement plant, Coromandel cement or any cement of your choice, and you're constructing a cement plant, the cement will be free issue. You don't have to pay for the cement. Okay. In when I was working in the metal handling division, we used to make a lot of money from supplying the conveyor belt. Suddenly, what happened? All the owners decided that conveyor belt will be free issue. That means they don't want the contractor to make money. What money contractor can make, I will myself make. So this means if you are getting conveyor belt, cement or steel from the by the owner, if you don't use a particular material, you should return it. If you are getting too much of scrap, then that is also something which they will not like. Okay. So these are some of the works which you typically subcontract: waterproofing, painting, blah blah blah. Okay, if you subcontract, it is cheaper for you many times. But if your owner doesn't accept, then you should be looking at this carefully. What happens is, it can be a design service, it can be a design and construction service, or it can be only a construction service. So in a construction service, it can be labor contract. You have heard of the term labor contract, material contract. I'll be supplying material for you for the next 5 years of the project, or the next 5 months of the project. I'll give you the labor. Sometimes it's both labor and material. It can also be an equipment contract. So I am having a dozen of trucks. I will give you the trucks for your project for the next 5 months. You don't have to buy a truck. So these are all some of the things which you can subcontract. But you should be very careful when you select a subcontractor. The subcontractor should also honor the main owner's requirement. They cannot be of bad quality. They should not circumvent the main contractor should not circumvent the requirements of the contract by hiring a low quality subcontractor. So the work order which the owner makes will not be, to the subcontractor. So the contractor has to make the work order for the subcontractor, and he should ensure that it satisfies the main contract, satisfies his own policies, and also they should see that if there is any legal requirement, like for example DOCW registration, who is going to do, who is going to pay, who is going to pay for the subcontractors. If suppose there is idle time, for example, when Deshbhushan was giving the session, he told there are times when material doesn't arrive in time. Again, we should also be very careful that the person is not blacklisted. Okay, sometimes the what we call as the subcontractor could have been blacklisted by the main contractor. If such a thing happens, okay, if such a thing happens where there is a blacklist by the owner, you will not be able to fulfill the terms of the contract. It's quite likely that you will be you will be in distress, you'll be in trouble. So you need to be very careful when you are selecting the subcontractor also. Usually what happens is all the big contractors will have empaneled subcontractors. For example, to be able to take a work in NTPC, you should be empaneled as approved contractor, especially in CPWD. NTPC is very tough. CPWD, you have to be an empaneled engineer. Only then you are in a position to take up jobs with CPWD. Okay. So when you are empaneled, you could, you could be so big that you are in a position to empanel subcontractors. Okay. Or if you're just starting out into the contracting business, you can be a subcontractor for a major vendor like in L&T. So you can, in the process, what happens? You build your portfolio. I did so many crores of worth of work. We don't care whether you did it for L&T or for other companies initially. Then slowly you are now able to make inroads into small government projects. So like this, you can very easily build up your profile. Okay? So you could be a subcontractor and still make it big. But when you are subcontracting, you are bound. Okay, you are bound to see that your subcontractor follows all the requirements of the parent company. Okay. Finally, when you pay the subcontractor, taxes are going to be done at, I don't know, one level or two levels. What does it mean for you and me? It means that if suppose subcontractor is also paying the government and you are also paying, you pay the tax twice. So you need to be very, I mean, like with GST a lot of things have become easy. So how is this going to be done, or what is the modality of making payments? It will be, it should be also part of the understanding or contract between the main contractor and the subcontractor. Okay, any questions? So today basically we saw that there are some major divisions in a contract document. I want you to study contract documents, download contract documents on your own from Tender Wizard or BHEL website or NTPC website. After you make the study, you are going to turn in a tender document. Okay, I am going to say turn in a tender document either for a school building or for a office building. CPWD does both of these works in in very good numbers. So you'll be very easily able to find this out. You have already been divided into groups. Okay, so you need to identify your group members, sit together, work on this tender document, and return it, or submit it by. Um, I think our exams start on 16th, right? 19th. Okay, then 16th. Today is 6th. You have 10 days to do this work. Okay. After the 10 days, you have 3 days to study for your exams. Okay, I think I'm generous enough in this one. It also means, okay, you are going to have 2 days of holidays in between for your Pongal. Okay, how can you work? You can work with Skype, WhatsApp, okay, Microsoft Teams, or any other thing. So don't tell me my friend was not here, so I could not do the work. Okay, today when you go to job site, okay, this is what is going to happen to each of you. Okay, they are going to have their own social media. Tomorrow we'll see a little bit of FIDIC. Okay, FIDIC is a standard form of contract. Thank you.